Hello and welcome to another episode of the podcast for the recently deceased. I am Nate Roberts.
And I am Rodney Godek. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. As you can see, I have changed location. We are in my new shop called The Basement. I won't be opening for another couple weeks, but it is a vinyl record, and horror movie and memorabilia shop, specializing in heavy metal, punk, and like indie rock, hip hop, things like that. And then on the horror side, it's going to be Blu-ray as well as like vinyl figures, NECA, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and also the location for where you're gonna get murdered.
Yes, it's also the
It's
murder room.
creepy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
no, it's
that.
gonna be great because it's the great thing about the way that you've set up the shop, or at least the idea of it, is that like it's very layered as far as basement and what that means to people, what it signifies, like as sort of the escape as a child sometimes, or maybe something fearful of as a child. But then as an adult, it's like a location that you want to utilize because it's like, oh, it's extra square footage and you can do stuff in here. And then it's like, man caves, and there's it list goes on and on. And your building being a somewhat historic building in a
Right.
in an urban a rural setting, but urban cityscape. There's a lot of history, and who knows what is dwelling down there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's a perfect segue to begin our conversation with tonight's movie. And so that's awesome that you're finally in that space.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really glad to be down here. I'm glad to be streaming from here. We can turn this into a studio when it needs to be, and it'll just be a retail space the rest of the time.
Hmm.
So tonight we are discussing Barbarian, written and directed by Zach Kreger of Whitest Kids You Know fame. I was a big Whitest Kids fan. Were you?
Yeah, slow jerking it, man.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Uh, starring Georgina Campbell, Bill Skarsgård, and Justin Long. This movie was excellent. To just say briefly, I had a great time. I took Anastasia. She enjoyed it too, which is not the easiest thing to come by.
No, Zach, Anastasia is a tough nut to crack,
Yeah.
especially with horror. Film in general, she's a very discerning eye with what she likes. And so to penetrate that hardened Russian exterior, you got to have just the right kind of mix. And you did it. So kudos to Zach on that one.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But how packed was your theater? Unfortunately, the theater I saw it the first showing at my local theater, which is a larger Cineplex. But there was maybe a dozen people in there, which was unfortunate. But I saw it Thursday night. You saw it Monday last night.
Yeah.
How full was it?
Last night, 6 p.m. showing, so the prime time showing, and there were, I want to say like two or three couples and a single, so less than 10.
Yeah. Which is unfortunate. I envy the people that got to see it in a large audience. I really would have enjoyed that because there's a lot in the film that there is to laugh at or also to be frightened by, and I would have loved to have heard other people responding similar or dissimilar to how I was responding. And I think the general feeling of this film is that it's very, very fun, no matter what. There was a couple that was leaving, or a group of 3 people that were sitting behind me. They were leaving and they recognized someone in the front row. I think they had worked there, or maybe they both knew people that worked there, so they understood that they recognized that person from other times they've been in the theater. And this chick goes, "That was a weird movie, huh? Did you like that? That was a weird movie." And I'm like, "Huh, that's an interesting take." I get okay. Yeah, I mean, I get that. But it's like I don't know what that person's into. Like I must not be a horror fan. I think that this is a slam dunk for horror fans, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was their take. Did you hear anything from people in yours?
I didn't hear anything. In fact, it was completely silent except for Anastasia and I, who were, talking to each other about the movie while it was happening. We were laughing at the right moments, and we were,
Yeah.
going like, "Oh, that was awesome" at the right moments, and really just silence from the rest of the audience,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
it's such a weird thing. Yeah, we live in a weird area. Man, we gotta. It'd be great to be into a I think I might drive out to Syracuse to a prime time showing one of these times. It's just look, dude, you know how I feel about it in general. I hate kids in theaters, and
Hmm.
when I say kids, I mean like teenagers.
Right.
And but in general, everyone's on their goddamn phone. You see the screen nonstop, and I can't handle because usually there's going to be a couple disinterested people. They all went out to the movies, but a handful of them don't want to really be there, so they're just going to fuck with their phone,
Yeah.
and it sucks. It completely sucks, and that I have OCD type shit. Like certain things grate me, and it just puts me in a bad mood. So I know it'll ruin my viewing experience. I want to go to a full theater with people that want to be there, that are going to be engaged, and
Right.
you don't get to just pick that when you go to a public space.
Yeah.
All right, I don't have to be an old curmudgeon about it anymore.
Right. Okay. So
So,
before we start, I just got to point out my awesome LGBT Scream shirt and Scream One behind me on the CRT. Yes, that is a VHS, and you can tell it's a CRT as the scan line goes through.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Ron, do you want to intro this one?
Sure, let me pull up the IMDb's. Uh, this is a brief IMDb one here. Um, Interesting. So, Barbarian, 2022, rated R, 142 runtime, or 42 minutes. A woman staying at an Airbnb discovers that the house she has rented is not what it seems. Now, I'll be honest, I could have sworn that there was a longer descriptor at some point that I remember reading, might have been the Google one or what have you, but um I mean, I think nothing has really swayed too far from that description with
Right.
any of the other ones. They might have listed something else like that she
Yeah.
discovers someone's already there, uh, you know.
Yeah. I like how
Uh,
vague it is.
yeah.
Definitely. I got to point out that rating, 7.7. That is like near perfect godlike score for a horror movie on IMDb. Like
I mean, yeah,
IMDb.
we'll see if it stays. So we'll real quickly because we do this anyways. Our format is that we're going to have a pretty broad strokey conversation about the big feelings of the movie, and then get to a rating, and then we're going to cut to the minutia of it and all the cool details that are the gushy parts. In general, though, all of our conversation is going to probably get into spoilers, and so this film specifically is it's sort of really relevant that you not know anything about it before you watch it because a lot of the fun of it is in the unfolding of the story as it happens. And so any information really past the trailer, and to me, the trailer includes plenty of spoilers itself. I wouldn't
Yeah.
want to have seen it, which I hadn't. Um, go in as blind as you can, and you will see this film debuted and came out of the weekend with a $10 million box office. For That's amazing for considering how it was made, the impetus of it. Zach Kreger being first time horror director, writer, director. Um, and it's that doing that well in theaters because of the word of mouth and because everyone is saying, "Don't know shit, just go see it. You have
Yeah.
to see it." So we recommend that everyone do that before they listen to our talk. But I just want to put that out there early so that we don't get caught up in any of the other details about it.
Exactly. So to get to the conversation, we're gonna just give you the broad strokes with our score. So Barbarian for me was so good. It was exciting to watch. It was like a popcorn horror like thriller, but the the meaning behind it, the stuff you can read into, the message, if you will. Um, it's there. It's not too subtle. Um, the twists and turns. I'm usually really good at predicting this stuff. If you watch the show, you would know. I did not. I didn't see anything coming in this movie. Like
Awesome.
every single one of these turns, I was like, "Oh shit! Oh shit!" Like,
Yeah, it reminds me of whenever when I watched. That's exciting because I felt the same way. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and if you watch the past few episodes, you'll know that like some big twists I definitely guess or see coming. I didn't see shit coming in this movie, and that is the most fun part about this movie. I totally agree with your comment about the spoilers. Don't even watch the trailer. The trailer is too much. I didn't watch the trailer
Yeah.
before. I watched the trailer after,
Yeah.
just because of that reason.
Right. Just to see what the talk was about. Like, because I saw some people saying the trailer doesn't give anything away, and I was like, I will be the judge of that. I
Yeah,
watched it,
yeah,
and I'm like, no, fuck that noise. Like, I
yeah,
can't, I can't vouch for that. Don't
yeah.
see that fucking trailer.
Don't
It's a
watch the
good
trailer.
trailer. It plays the heightened tension of the first act of this movie, and it kind of, but it gives you a lot of what's going on, and then it gives you like the beats of something happening. And I'm sorry, but those are crucially interesting, creative pieces of information that are so exciting to see unfold, not knowing that they're gonna fucking unfold.
Yeah. So, in summation, my short review is for heady, nearly art house horror in its message, but in its delivery, kind of like a. Without giving spoilers, I can't really say much more except that it is definitely like an action-y kind of thriller in the back half. Um, I give it an 8 out of 10. It's probably gonna be in my top five. Didn't quite make the nine,
Yeah.
but it's a
So
solid 8.
that's a fair score. I agree. I think that this movie works in how fun it is. This is a horror movie that does keep you guessing, keeps you on your toes, will surprise you, but will also give you plenty of times to just dread what's happening or to be fearful what's happening. Plenty of scares, but plenty of excitement and plenty of laughs. This is the kind of film that has all of those elements that make horror a genre that just bleeds into all others and showcases the greatest emotions that one could experience in the runtime that it has. Much like *Malignant* last year, in that it was the most fun horror ride that I had, and that's why it won Best of the Year. This has that same kind of vibe. I don't know where it's going to end for me, but it definitely is going to be. It's definitely in the top 5 right now, I would say, and it has the fun factor. It's not going to be something that's going to rack you and make you like dread it over days. It's going to make you think about how much goddamn fun it was to go through all of that, and you'll recount all the interesting twists and turns in the lines and the interactions that made it so fun. So for me, I landed right at the same spot. It's an 8 out of 10. Um, I think that there were just maybe a couple moments that were pacing dwindled just a hair, um, and could have had more, given me more to chew on, or more either through more visual surprises of things that were going on, or more absurdity, because that felt like a little bit restrained. And we'll get into the details about how it could have been pushed or where it worked as it was. But it's great because it's does so many different things. And I like when you talked about the possible messaging, it's very current of our landscape culturally right now, at least in the US. And it has all of those references and conversations to weigh it down or to ground it to give to into, and it plays with them. I've seen people complain and otherwise, but it utilizes them and it makes it interesting and fun to engage with, but it doesn't hinder or heavily handed force feed you that kind of stuff. It's just there in its background, and it helps inform characters and characters' decisions and characters' interactions in a really fun and exciting way. It's just the right amount of like, here's a little bit of this, and it puts it in your head, and you're chewing on it, and it makes you interpret what's going on screen in a unique light that makes it more fun than if it were just boilerplate. None of that backstory exists. These are just characters doing this random stuff like
Right.
traditional horrors usually are. So I think it's a great marriage of wanting to do a traditional horror, but putting these other elements in there to have it make more sense and be more prescient today. So 8 out of 10, definitely top 5. Can't say where it's going to be, but I feel really strong about it. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great movie. Uh, that being said, now we'll start the spoiler section of the conversation. So if you have not seen the movie, stop now. Come back later. Um, all right. To your point, to the point you just made,
Yeah.
the segment with Tess and Keith
Ah.
was 40 minutes long.
Yeah.
They could have cut that down,
Eh,
or they could have cut that down by 10 minutes easy. And they could have given us more of a chase in the basement before the mother catches Keith.
yeah,
Give
that's
us,
fair. But we also have been in plenty of movies where there's like nonstop dark corridors, dimly lit, where you
yeah,
hear a noise and pitter pattering and a
sure,
screaming and a this, and it's like, okay, yeah, we get it. it we've been there before too. So who's to
yes,
say if that would be a worthy swapping of runtime on screen time? But yeah, I don't think it was for me the setup that languished a bit too long. It was uh once you found out what was going on, it like the cops was seemed a little bit like I get it, but it was maybe a little bit unnecessary. You could have like done something else there,
hmm,
or like wasn't super crucial. I get it, it's like, oh, they don't
yeah.
believe her. She's crazy black lady in this rundown Detroit neighborhood. Of course, she's
Well, and
crackhead.
she was so dirty too. Like,
I know. She had just been 2 weeks on mother's milk. So,
yeah,
so
yeah,
like I'm sure she's cracked out of her mind. Um, but it was like a little bit over the top. But there's also part of me that understands and appreciates the ham of that too. There's
yeah,
cheese factor there that I think is intentionally like where it's misogynistic or they just don't trust it's a woman. They don't trust her. It's patriarchy. They don't trust her.
yeah.
And also we've got bigger fish to fry and we don't see shit right now that makes us believe anything that you're saying. We can't waste our time,
True,
so we just
true.
gotta go to something else. Like, they've gotta have blinders on and to deal with all the other bullshit that I'm sure they're dealing with. So it made sense, but for me, that was like a spot to trim some fat, I think.
Yeah. Uh, so one of the things right off the bat that I thought was brilliant that they did. So in Act One, it's Georgina Campbell as Tess, Bill Skarsgård as Keith. Keith is already in the Airbnb. Tess shows up, and he says, you know what? He invites her in. He says, let's just share it. She after she fails at a few different attempts to find something else. She's like, I'll sleep on the couch. You sleep in the bed because he believes he's being a gentleman.
Mhm.
He even goes outside and brings her bags in, and she's like, you didn't have to do that. He's like, I'm the only one with a raincoat. Anyway, he's being super nice, but you've got this creep factor, right? And she's aware of it. Like,
Mhm.
is this guy gonna murder me in my sleep? We get close-ups of the door being locked every time she closes the door behind her.
Yeah, it was great. A lot of good the cinematography was shot well
Oh yeah,
with the interior, but the decision of what information to give you as a viewer of what
yeah.
was happening and what you're paying attention to was smart. I liked seeing those the handles with the
Yeah,
button on the thing.
Yeah, because the one time like they share or he has a glass of wine, they have a nice conversation, and then she goes to bed and she doesn't lock it,
Yeah, she
and
forgets.
then
Yeah,
because she's a little
yeah,
comfortable
her
with him
guards down a little bit. Yeah.
after this time, and then you're like, oh no,
Uh-huh.
it's gonna happen now. She forgot to lock the door. He can get in, and so
Yeah.
this is the brilliant part. Obviously the writing is great. We'll probably say that 10 more times in this episode. Uh, but casting Bill Skarsgård,
Hmm.
I think, is 100% done on purpose
Yeah.
because we're so used to him as a villain, as a
Hmm.
viewer, that they cast him just to fake you out. Like to
Yeah,
yeah,
I I'm pretty. I think there's an interview where he gets into that, but I think that Zach Kreger kind of like that was the idea that he liked the idea that that's how everyone's seeing him. That's how they're coming to the screen. Like there's baggage there with how
yeah,
his on screen presence is.
right.
Where and the way that the whole first act with them too is shot and done and written, the tension is so
Yeah,
thick.
yeah, yeah. Every moment I'm waiting for
Yeah,
Keith to start killing this to like you know she
something to happen. Yeah, like it's him that's gonna
she
turn
yeah,
or
it's his house and he just
right.
Airbnbs it and kills anyone who shows up. She goes
He's got some
downstairs.
other
Yeah,
Airbnb, he's got some other place, and he's like showing
yeah,
her he
yeah,
doesn't trust her. Like
yeah.
everything, the way he's wording it, his over niceness with certain things,
Yeah,
it's all layered.
he wanted her to he wanted her to drink the tea. She didn't drink the tea. He wanted to give her the wine. He even said, "I noticed you didn't drink the tea. You probably think I'm some kind of weirdo, so I waited for you to come out of the shower or the bathroom so you could watch me open the bottle of wine,
Yeah,
so you could trust me." And it's done in such a way where you're like, this guy is trying to fucking kill this lady.
yeah.
Eh,
Well, yeah, but like, and think about Fresh. You know, this has
oh yeah,
similarities with the first act of Fresh, like where you're
yeah,
like, this seems like like this one, you know that something is going to be amiss because of the way that it is structured and shot, like
yeah,
where it is already questioning. But in Fresh, it's like it's just the relationship, and you don't have anything, and how they're gonna pull the rug, and then the fucking title card. And this film does the same thing, but they give you a little bit of scare with the noises and everything at the end of the night, and then culminating in the journey downstairs. But like that switch to the fucking California Dreamin' uh, was like the Fresh moment for me. I thought of I
right,
was like, oh my god, they like I just went from pure horror tension release to now I'm like, what? Where am I? What
yeah,
is going on? Like, what are
right,
you doing?
right, yeah,
And that I was so discombobulated, and it's so weird. You're like, what the fuck? I forgot this guy was even in this movie. What is going? How does this connect? And it's so perfect.
yeah,
But Christ, everything in that first act is like exactly how you create tension with just the two characters and just dialogue and just the situation of what's going on. Situational drama, like weird shit. Uh
yeah, yeah. She gets in the basement. She
yeah, she
open
has
she opens a secret door at the end of the hallway. Yeah, I mean it's late for me, you know.
yeah. Yeah, 6 o'clock prime time. Just got out of the fucking early bird special.
So
Yeah,
she finds this fucking murder room, right? It's got like a cot, a
the
camera pointed at it, a
camcorder.
bloody
Yep.
handprint on the wall, and when you see it for the first time, you're like, this is Keith's murder room.
I know.
You don't think it's a murder room.
Mm,
You think
no.
it's
Yeah.
his murder room.
Yeah.
Like so
The key's there.
oh, the twist is insane. You
Yeah.
know, she finds the room, she goes upstairs, she's like, "I'm fuck out of here. You should be too." He's like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "Crazy murder room." He's like, "No way. I'm not leaving. I paid for my Airbnb.
But
I
this
don't
is also too like this whole situation, like it's still dangling, you know, that it's him. Like
yeah,
he seemed to have saved her because right. So she discovers it. She goes to leave because she finds the further. She opens the other back
the
panel to
other
see the
back
stairs,
panel. Yeah.
and she's like, "I'm getting the fuck out of here." She's done with that. You know, she even
Yeah.
says nope.
She says
Which
nope, which
a sidebar, the director had mentioned he showed Jordan Peele the movie and he talked to him about it and he like said, "Are you cool with that?" And Jordan Peele was like, "Yeah, leave it." He doesn't, you know, and so that's kind of a cool little behind the scenes.
sure.
Um, but so she's waiting for him to show up. He finally does, and she's like tapping on the window, the key and everything, and so he saves her. But yeah, she's trying to convince him, and he's like, I what are you talking about? Like, yeah, that whole part of where he's questioning what she's talking about seeing there, because we still think like for a good bit this is he knows all of this.
Yeah.
And so him going down there and be like, it's fine, just wait here, okay, just don't go
Just wait
yet,
here. Yeah.
just wait.
Oh,
Like,
I'm gonna go check it
and then
out.
he doesn't respond, you know, and you're like, oh, what,
You're like, what?
why?
Is he luring her down there now? So
And then
like,
she
I'm like,
starts going, and you're like, "What are you
she goes
doing?"
down the stairs. You're like, oh my god, she's gonna walk right into his trap. I'm still like, I know
Yes.
Bill Skarsgård's the villain. I'm the viewer, and I know that he's gonna get her in one
Yeah.
of these cages that she walks by. She looks at the cages. There's
Yeah,
dog
because
food
once we
bowls
get
in
down
them.
there, it's like we're our nerves are super
Yeah,
tense right
yeah,
now, and like every little visual and darkness, because it's just her phone, you know, it's terrifying,
yeah.
and you don't hear anything. You just hear his faint cries of help or whatever, and then
Right, and
she's just in the corridor. She sees those cages. It's
and then
weird
all
and gross. She sees the room, right?
yeah.
She sees the
Oh,
room
she sees the room with
with
the breastfeeding video,
yep, and the blankets.
which is actually something you have to remember.
And yeah, she can, and then she just hears, you hear the dark, you just see the darkness, and she's just looking, and it's like
And
one of the best jump scares of the fucking
right,
movie.
he comes out of it and he's like crawling
Crawling, yeah, crawling on all
at her.
fours, like, someone bit me.
Someone
Like,
bit me,
what?
and she's like, what?
Him
And then
him
this,
emerging, crawling,
yeah,
completely unexpected.
oh yeah,
That's not what you would expect.
and then you get the second jump scare of this gnarly, fully naked, covered in dirt, ratty hair, freaking weird ass teeth,
Yeah.
like comes out to like over
Just
him,
emerged from darkness, yeah.
grabs him by the
Grab
side
him.
of the head and just crush up against the thing, and then it cuts right away
Immediately, yeah, cut to California.
to Justin Long in a convertible, singing some song on the radio.
Yeah, I wasn't paying it. I couldn't remember. I didn't bother to relook what the song was, but
What the
he's got
song
all
was,
the
yeah.
lyrics, and he's singing along. Man, that first segment was just so well done, and it's this kind of movie over here. Um, but now we're in a different movie now,
Right,
and there's a different kind of story. And so whenever I was talking earlier about the necessity to having this kind of backstory, I've read a few people, because on Rotten Tomatoes I will look when movie that I feel so strongly positive about is whenever there's a few negative reviews, I want to see where the perspective is that they have. So I'll pull up the negative review and I'll see, okay, what is it that didn't work, or what are they trying to have an issue with? And for the two that I read on the top critics is like that there's an issue that they have, like where they feel like there's supposed to be commentary. It's like he's trying to be Jordan Peele with Get Out and Us, but it lacks this, and this. And like you spend so much time just trying to figure out the mystery, but nothing's really worth the juice isn't worth the squeeze, more or less. And I'm just like, I know you like to figure things out, but for me, sometimes it's good to just experience a fucking movie, guys. Like, you don't have to put on your goddamn Sherlock Holmes cap and try to figure it out before the fucking end to prove to yourself that you're the goddamn best. If it happens naturally just from watching it and something clicks and it just triggers, then great. Okay. But that's not the goal of watching a movie, to figure it out before anyone else does. It's to experience it. And this is an experience. So the angle of Justin Long's character
yeah,
having his cloud 9 moment, happy as shit, pig and shit type sunshine actor. He's got a great show going. Phone call, you've been accused of rape, sexual assault. Uh, we're letting you go.
we're letting you
Like,
go. Yeah,
you gotta get your house in order. We'll see. And but like the conversation is hilarious because they're so cold, and he's like,
yeah,
wait, what the fuck? That didn't happen. Um, this whole point of him going through this informs, and what he's experiencing informs how entertaining and exciting it is to see everything else later in the movie. Him having this in his background is extremely relevant to everything else that's going to happen,
right,
both the good and the bad. So it's super relevant, and it's hilariously written with this incredulous attitude that he has as this Hollywood star of sorts, and everyone just like bailing on him because of this accusation. Now, we both feel pretty confident, by the time things progress further, it's very clear that AJ's a fucking dick and
yeah,
not a good guy.
yeah. Like
But
for a little bit, you definitely want to give him the benefit of the doubt, and he does play it sympathetically, except for the use of this phrase, "that fucking bitch," which he does say over and over and over
yeah,
again. And
like
I think every time he says it, you feel less like he is innocent.
yeah,
uh,
I mean, it's like there's plenty of time where like you can see his face react, and he does seem to have genuine disbelief.
yeah,
But to be honest, that is what a person that did something bad, that is unaware or doesn't care to think about the
right,
fact that
right,
they could be doing something bad, because they don't care about that other person. They don't see them as a, you know. And so it's, even if you do have sympathy towards him, it quickly goes away and becomes hilariously fun to watch him, uh to wait and try to hope that he gets his comeuppance by the end of the movie.
right.
But everything was just done great. Everyone's bailing on him, and so the whole point, and like, and this is where I was like, well, what the fuck is going on? And his his agent or his money manager is dropping him. He's
Yep.
like, "You're out of money. This I'm letting you go at the end of the week. You're gonna get your files back." And they talk about his assets, and his assets are these houses are in Detroit. He has to go to Detroit because that's where he's got to get his shit to
Right.
maybe look at selling some properties, and that's what brings him back to the Airbnb. It is a hilariously fun and smart way to tie in this completely random character into the plot of the movie that's already going on.
Right.
uh, this to me was like the smartest fucking thing about the movie because it's one thing to do the excitement of the first act, but to now have this other character that's in the situation under these pretenses led to the funniest moments of the film,
Yeah.
which was completely necessary to break the tension and to keep it fun and exciting and actiony. Uh, man, so
Yeah. So Justin Long gets to the house, right? 437 Barbary Street, something like that.
476.
476 Barbary Street, yes. And he sees the bags of two people.
Yeah,
He's
he
like,
starts
he
bitching
starts,
out the lady that runs the property,
yeah,
like, "What are you talking about? That's a pretty stupid fucking system.
yeah,
You don't
yeah,
clean it until it gets rented. What if someone just trashed the place?"
yeah. How would I know? How would I know that someone didn't just trash the place? And he kind of spends the night there, right? Like, cause he goes out
Yes.
with his buddy, which
Ye
is the first time that you're like, okay, this guy is a piece of shit. Is when he's out with his buddy and he kind of tells him the story, and he tells it in a very like bro down, we're still in college kind of
Yeah,
fashion.
well, they're both, both, shit-faced, and he's, like,
Yeah,
just talking about it in the most, misogynistic type way, like,
yeah, it's like,
and I thought it was great. Like he's like, you know me though, I'm persistent, and she didn't want
yeah,
to at first, but we kept talking, and then she was totally into it, man. She was down. She was so into it, like
yeah,
eventually, and so
yeah,
like it's like, yeah, that is not okay,
yeah, yeah. That
in
is
any way,
okay. All right.
and yeah, that he's persistent. It's like, yeah, that doesn't sound like it was a good thing, dude.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, so, um, yeah, and then he comes back. I can't remember. I think does he discover downstairs beforehand, or is it until after? It must be after, yeah, because he's
yes,
hungover.
it's after. Yeah.
Yeah, but fuck.
Well, because all
So
this stuff happens during the day.
right,
Like,
yeah,
like they go downstairs during the day both times, right?
right,
Because, and we will learn this later, because the mother goes out at night
hmm
to hunt for.
right. And I guess the only other time that we could have assumed that was earlier, whenever Tessa's door was open, we could be led after you haven't seen it. It was like, oh, the mother was fucking out wandering around.
Wandering around. That was the noise, right?
Yeah,
Or yeah, or why the door was open. Um, all right, so Justin goes down, and I'm a
this
little.
is like one of the best moments of the movie is because okay, yeah, so I just wanted to double check that we had that order right. It doesn't really, it's not crucial, but yeah, it's AJ. Right, yeah, this one doesn't even mention the thing, but yeah, so he goes in the basement and he finds the back room, but he is looking through lens of, I own this property,
Yeah.
I see money
So,
now.
so
And this is the
he's
funniest fucking scene, dude. This is so good. Nonstop laughs for the next like 5 minutes.
yeah, he
He's
gets
he
a
gets the
tape
tape
measure.
measure. He runs upstairs and he pops up his Google. Can basement unfinished basement count towards square footage? Like he's like, and it's like
Yeah,
everyone's already because he's looking at the dollar signs and he's like he's reading what he's reading out loud. Like it can't be
yeah.
counted towards square footage, but it can be but it
Include
can't. And he's like, oh, but I
yeah,
can't. So he's just trying to, how can I get more
yeah,
money out of this? And he goes and he keeps discovering more and more. He sees the back door and he's like, oh yes.
yeah,
He's measuring the stairs like 9, 10, 11. This is awesome. He
yeah.
sees the cages. He's like, what? Awesome. And he keeps measuring.
He measures that room. Yeah,
And it's so fucking great because the horror that occurred, and you already have an idea of what horrors could have occurred, on top of the fact that you already saw something happen. So your mind is reeling, but this buffoon is in here acting as if it's no big fucking deal. It's like the ignorance is bliss type thing, and it's exciting as hell because at any moment the balloon could pop, and
Right.
that tension is right there. But you're still laughing at every part of it.
Yeah.
To me, like that was such a great release to just enjoy and laugh and laugh and laugh at that scene.
Oh, it was so good.
Because yeah,
Now, does he just
it,
does he find her? Or does he just fall in the hole?
she chases him or something. Like yeah,
Yeah.
he hears something and he runs and then he falls into the hole and the trap
Yeah.
shuts.
Yeah. And the trap shuts, and there's Tess, and she's
Yeah.
alive. And
Hmm.
it's been 2 weeks
Yeah,
since
she's
the
gonna.
the
Yeah,
yeah since the incident. Um, so very shortly after they're in there, or after he falls in there, the
yeah.
mother,
Like moments later,
yeah, the
she
mom,
comes and
she comes, she opens the thing, she puts down this bottle full of milk, and she's trying to make him drink from it, and Tessa's like, drink the fucking milk, drink the
yeah,
fucking milk,
she knows
don't
like
don't upset
she
her.
you don't upset her. This is what you have to do. Like you have
Yeah,
to
you have
drink
got
the
to drink
milk.
the milk.
But he's like, fuck that.
Yeah,
Tess drinks it.
yeah. Tess
Tess picks
drinks
him
it.
first,
Tess
and
drinks
he
it.
and he
And
refuses to. So
here
she
is,
fucking yanks him out and takes him to the nursing room
yeah,
to fucking show him how to
to
do it.
to nurse from the teat,
Yeah,
which is fucking disgusting, but totally awesome. So
yeah,
while this is happening, Tess tries to make her escape, and of course, and he had a knife, so he dropped it, so she
yeah.
now has the knife, um, and I think she kind of leaves him, right? She leaves him in the nursery, like she walks past it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, so she
Try to think.
well, yeah, because she hears she trips over
She trips over the
some
tape,
the
the
tape measure,
the
yeah, the
tape
tape measure.
measure.
So it
Uh,
alerts the mother, and so she has to run and run, and she
right.
gets to the window, and she's knocking on the window,
She
and this is
breaks the
where we meet.
window.
Yeah, she breaks the window, and we meet Andre,
Right.
right outside. She gets out of the window, and the mother's there, and she's like, "Rah," and but she doesn't
Yeah,
come
but
out into the sun.
She goes back in. Now, interesting point here is this is the second time we've seen Andre, although we didn't see Andre's face before. He was approaching the house when Tess was outside earlier in the film, going,
Yeah,
don't go in that house, lady, don't go in that house." And
yeah,
you're like, oh, here's a crazy crackhead interaction that she's been warned about because of this bad neighborhood,
yeah,
because she was there for a job interview. There's all sorts of like
yeah.
exposition that we skipped over,
Right.
um, but it's all integral and it all matters. Like everything that like once again beautifully written. Like I said, we were going to
Yeah.
say that a bunch of times.
And this is where then Andre more or less tells her like she's not the only thing bad down there, and
Yeah,
she's lived there her whole life, and she comes out at night, and that's why you got to get out of here. But she's like, I have to
I have to
go
save
save
him.
him. I
Yeah, I
can't leave
can't
him down there.
leave an innocent
Um,
guy in there. Yeah,
and yeah, and so then it flashes back to Frank, real quick in the 80s, and it gives you like the backstory. And this is again another movie. This is its
yes,
own little
yes.
set piece.
It's at this point where we can pause for a moment and say that a lot of people were comparing this movie to *Malignant*, and I don't think that's a fair comparison at all. To
Yeah.
me, this feels a lot more like *Pulp Fiction* or a Tarantino style horror film, because these acts are delineated like very obviously. They change the pace of the movie. They
Mm.
change the feel of the movie as they move. They're all about different characters, and you're getting all the backstory that you need as you go. So I would liken it more to a Tarantino-esque horror film than I would
Yeah,
say
the
it's
people that talk about *Malignant*, I think it's just in the same breath of like the funness
the
of
fun. Yeah,
*Malignant*,
yeah,
the
the yeah,
surprise of how absurd things go. Because by the end of this movie, there wasn't a ton of absurdity just yet. The breastfeeding and all that does have absurd qualities to it, but it's not over the top ridiculousness like *Malignant's*
yeah.
backwards facing
Like everything about Malik.
telepathic monster, like a tumor monster. It's great. So it's not at the same level, but I understand the relationship. But
Yeah.
it's what it
Yeah,
is.
they could have
So
had
yeah, this
they could have had a group of bums when Andre gets attacked, and she could have killed all of them.
oh
That
yeah, a
would have
whole
been
fucking
a lot
yeah
more like the police
yeah
lobby
right
scene.
yeah the
I
holding cell.
I would give
Right.
that some points
Yeah.
towards Malignant.
So, with the flashback scene is another. It's like just like the first act, where it's like its own little snippet of a film that is just tension and fear-inducing, and it's like what you would see with an unsolved mysteries reenactment, kind of,
Right.
where you hear the guy's voice talking, and Frank would wear Carlos's uniform, and he did such and such. Like, so it's just more or less Frank is the homeowner of 476 Barbary back in the 80s. Did you see him go to the store? He's looking to get all these things that are rapey, sex dungeony type supplies. And then he's out in the car. By the way, the over the shoulder POV shots were
Oh,
really
yeah.
sick.
I loved the shots of the flashback. Oh, it was
Yeah,
gorgeous. I
it was
mean,
super crisp. It looked like an idyllic type thing. And again, it was like at that time the neighborhood was thriving.
right.
But as his neighbor said he was selling, it was like on a way out. It was turning to a different kind of housing project situation, and people were
Right.
getting out while they could, and Frank wasn't gonna. But yeah, so he sees a woman loading groceries in across the street from where he is, and he's just like, I'm following her. And it just didn't seem like there's any rhyme or reason. He just noticed her and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna follow her. And he does. He
Yeah.
gets to a trunk and he puts on Carlos's jumpsuit, knocks on the door and says, I'm such and such from the company. I got to check something.
Yeah.
And he does it and he gets in, he unlocks a window, and he says, thanks, you have a good day, everything's fine. And that's all that you see of the flashback.
Yeah.
Well, you see
Oh
him
no,
go back to the house,
he
go
goes
back to the
shopping.
house, and well, yeah, but he did shopping before he got in there. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
he buys everything, he gets in the car, but he goes back to his house. That's when his neighbor tells him that he's going to be selling. He said he's not selling. He goes to his back door, the basement door, and you hear
Yeah.
screams,
You hear screams
and
as
and
he goes
that
in there.
that closes
And then
that.
yeah. Now,
The
real quick
That
in
whole thing is awesome.
yeah, in the shopping too, he gets helped by an attendant.
Oh, the clerk, yeah, and he gets
Yeah,
the breastfeeding video
yes, he gets the breastfeeding video. Well, you know
because he's going to be doing a home birth.
he's doing a home birth and he doesn't have a midwife, but he's asking for like plastic sheets and he's asking for
Yeah,
diapers and all sorts of other stuff. Anyway, she's like, "You're gonna want this," and she throws the breastfeeding video in there, and that
yeah,
I
and
thought
that connects to that.
that was a really nice
Um,
touch.
but just the way that there's this lifelessness in his portrayal. Like, it's just like another day in the office. I found my mark. I
Yep.
got in. I opened up her window. I'm gonna be back, and I'm gonna fucking
Yeah.
kidnap her, and then bring her to my sex dungeon later. It's so fucking dark, but
Yeah.
it's just matter of fact, and it's just all up here that all that fear and concern is. And that's the other thing. There's restraint here in this movie, and that it doesn't show you all that stuff. You don't need to see all that stuff. The
Yeah.
videotapes that happen pretty soon here. You don't need to see it. It's
Right.
enough to hear a little bit and to just see the fucking sheer quantity and the spines.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Anyways, yeah. Well, and Justin Long's reaction is amazing.
I know he's like,
No one ever gives Justin Long like any credit. I think as an actor, like I've always liked Justin Long. Like
well,
even from the Accepted and Dodgeball days. Like I've always liked Justin Long in everything
well,
he's
look,
done.
I love Jeepers Creepers.
Sure.
Um, Jeepers Creepers has been written off due to director's misconduct, and
Right.
but I don't think that. I mean, it's still a great fucking movie. Disassociate
Sure.
if you want the artist from the art. If you're able to, if you're not, whatever. People still say Woody Allen's awesome, Roman Polanski's awesome. There's a lot of bad shit. I'm not
Yeah.
excusing any behavior. Jeepers Creepers as a movie is fucking cool.
Yeah.
And Justin Long is excellent in it. You can't, don't take
Yeah.
that from him.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah.
whatever. Which again is
Well,
also referenced by the end of this movie with the eyes and
yeah,
Jeepers
yeah,
Creepers.
that's right. Yeah, he also did Tusk, which so Justin Long
We don't
has.
talk about Tusk.
Hey,
We
hey, hey!
we
You
don't
say
talk about Bruno. We don't talk about Tusk. Fuck Kevin Smith and fuck Tusk.
all I'm saying, he has horror pedigree. It's more than just Jeepers Creepers.
Right, but pedigree and Tusk not in the same
Hey,
sentence.
a lot of people like Tusk. Tusk
Yeah, there's a lot of fucking dumb people in this world. I'm sorry to say. Unfortunately,
Tusk
we live
Tusk
we
is
live
getting
amongst them.
Tusk is getting a sequel.
People have been talking about that,
Yeah.
and hey, you know, I can't understand why. Clerks 3 must not have performed as strongly, and they want to waste more money, I guess. I guess. I don't know. So at any rate, to get back to concluding our story, this is we're ramping up to the final third act here. We jump back, we got Frank's backstory, and now we are on the verge of seeing where things go. How
All
right.
right, where are
This
we?
is where we jump back into where AJ because the mother went to chase after AJ. I think
Right,
he gets out of there and now he's on the run. And he gets to that hallway where he sees the bell and then he goes to the door and he finds a door and he knows the mother's chasing. He keeps looking back, but he knows the
right,
mother's chasing. She will not come to where he's at. He's at that door. She's afraid of that door. She
right,
backs away. He goes in. This is where Frank is.
right. So Frank is super old and dying. Oh, I will not forget about Drag Me to Hell. Tom, thank you for reminding us of a good
Oh,
just
Justin Long, yeah.
Justin Long horror. All right. Um, so Frank's old. He's in bed and he's just like coughing and
Yeah,
this
he's
guy's
not
like,
can't even use words, he's just motioning.
yeah, he's like, we got to get out of here. And then he, or Justin Long's like, yeah, we got AJ, we got to get out of here. There's a crazy woman
He
out there. Blah
yeah,
blah
he motions to
blah.
the desk, he brings the desk closer, he doesn't know what he wants, so there's water on there, but it's fucking deplorable conditions, it's so like grossness, there's
Yeah,
vessels of who knows what in them,
yeah,
and so he brings the desk closer, and then he starts investigating the back corner where the television set is. There's like a scene of Hawaii or palm trees painted
yeah,
on the wall, like,
yeah. So he sees the spines of hundreds of like women's names
No,
and
just no, it's just like objectification of
yeah,
what they were.
yeah.
And I ugh,
Sometimes it was women's names.
my t-shirt, yeah, they're probably yes, I know there were. But the ones that were interesting were the ones that weren't because it
Right.
just highlighted how fucking repulsive of a person he
Yeah.
was and the disassociation that he must have had. Um this is my next t-shirt, calling it right now. Just those spines
For the spines,
of the
yeah.
fucking event, just the
Yeah.
spines of stack of VHS
Yeah.
of just the spines. Like I remember a couple. You have to tell me how many you remember. Like
Uh
one said blind.
yeah. Gas
I
station redhead?
yeah, Irish accent.
Yeah.
Uh, like just boiling down the woman that he targeted. This was the thing about her that he's into, or like as if these are categories on fucking Pornhub for him, and he
Right.
wants to watch this video of him. It's so
Yeah.
heinously horrific.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
but it's
so so we see these names and we don't know what he's done yet. We only know we can only assume that he's just
right. And
that he's
just
just
Long puts one in and he starts watching it, but then you see him pull the gun out of the thing.
and well, Justin Long is so disgusted and repulsed. He's like, I'm gonna bring a swarm of cops down on here. You're fucking disgusting, right? And also, here's a moment that this is another turn in the story here where Justin Long's character still believes that he's a good person.
Yeah.
He still hasn't like accepted the fact that he's done that horrible thing he's been accused of, and he
Hmm.
still fully believes that she's in the wrong. Um, and so he just pulls a gun out, and I expected him to shoot Justin Long, and he blows his brains out. Like I said, I guessed nothing right in this movie.
Yeah.
um, so so now Justin has a gun. AJ has a
Yes.
gun. So yeah, he gets out and
So he gets out of the tunnels,
yep,
but so it's nighttime now. And so the mother leaves to look for Tess, and this is where Tess ends up running her over with the car. Tess shows up the car and she pins
right.
her to the fucking house.
Pins her to the house. She
And
goes
then
in and then gets
she
him, and they reconvene, and then they run
she
off.
gets okay, she gets to the basement. He accidentally shoots her
Oh right.
in the stomach because he
He's
hears the
just
whatever, and so he
yeah, he's
just
just
shoots.
panicking, right?
And then he finds her. He's like, oh no, oh no, oh my god, I had to, he's like
Yeah, yeah,
defending. He's like, apologetic, but
Yeah,
not.
it's like, all right, I'm gonna pick you up and I'm gonna rescue you. Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Andre takes them to a safe space,
Yeah, they get
and
out, the mother's gone,
the mother's
and
gone.
so they just start running, and so she says we can go, she knows where to go.
Yeah,
She's because Andre said the water tower
the
is,
water
where
tower.
they're at. So they go towards it, and that's where AJ finds him. He's like, "Come on inside." And so they're
Yeah,
inside like a church, I think, an old church.
yeah,
And this is where like there's a moment of rest where they're talking
right.
about shit.
And this is where we get to find out what has been going on, where Andre fills us in that not only is he a serial killer, which was the obvious guess, but he's been raping and impregnating these women, and then raping and impregnating his children with these women, and then their
Yeah.
children,
Yeah.
and that this the mother character is the
Yeah.
result
The
of the
product of Yeah,
of
Andre's like, whenever you make a copy of a copy of a copy,
yeah,
it really, things get a little wonky.
yeah, yeah,
It's like how they just like glaze over explaining why she is the way she is.
yeah,
Now it's only from the 80s, seemingly, and so
yeah,
there's only a few generations that could be there. The mother, I would assume,
yeah,
is like at least in her 20s, and so one would presume like, okay,
yeah.
maybe like this has happened a couple times, but whatever, that's not
Yeah, yeah.
really relevant.
How many generations
Right, right,
is
right.
a disgusting question to have answered.
I know,
So
yes.
let's not answer the question. Um,
No,
so what's so great about this next part
I
is
love this part.
this is one of those malignant feel scenes where
Yes.
AJ just asked the obvious question. Well, if she comes out and hunts at night, how are you safe here? And he's like, well, I've been safe here for 20 years. And as he says it, she busts through the wall.
Kool-Aid Man
Yeah,
style.
picks him up, tears his arm off, and starts to beat him to death with it as AJ and Tess run away.
It
And
was
the
so great because it was like the timing, the comic timing of it. And again,
yeah,
comedically trained actors or directors, like people that know comedy, that make horror, fucking know what they're doing. And
yeah.
this is just another highlight, like Zach Krieger having that as their base to
Oh,
now do
sure.
horror. The
Yeah,
genre is blend. It's like a perfect stepping stone into horror. Jordan Peele's proved it. Zach Krieger fucking nailed it.
yeah.
That moment, the timing of it was just so fucking perfect because it was just so out of the blue, and he's like, he mentions it so innocently, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, she hasn't been here in this such this," and then it's just like, boom, and he's like, "Oh," and
Yeah.
then the gratuitous violence of it to pull his arm off and then
And
to
then
beat
start
him
beat
with
him
it.
to. I
It's
don't,
just, it's, man,
well, having her beat him with it is what gives them enough time to escape. So
yeah,
they're climbing up the water tower. I don't know what they think is going to happen here.
I know.
Of course
They were
they're
cornered because it was barbed wire. They couldn't
yeah,
get up and over. So he's
yeah,
like, and here's the other thing: like the whole time, Justin Long's like has several instances where he's holding the gun or he's holding a knife and a flashlight. He doesn't know how to wield any of them. He's always
yeah,
fumbling with his
yeah,
shit
yeah.
nonstop.
He
Like they
drops
did
the
this
knife
running
like
gag
3 times.
the whole movie, and like
Yeah,
he's just always has this like this Nancy type like tone, like inflection with how he's doing things because he's
yeah,
such an emasculate. He's not a hero figure.
right,
He is not the defender, the strong man in these situations. He's the flight response of all these situations.
yeah,
And so yeah, he leads them up the water tower, and he's like, "Come on, we gotta go, hurry!" And he's not helping her. He's
yeah,
running well ahead of her. He's like, "Come on, let's go."
yeah.
She's get fucking got shot. And so then they get up there, but inevitably the mother's gonna
The
get up
mother,
there too.
yeah, and Tess is like laying down now because they can make it to the top, so she like falls down, and the mother gets up there, and Justin Long, AJ just looks at Tess and goes, "Well, one of us has to get away, and you're gonna have to slow her down." And he just grabs her by the leg, and this is where he like throws her like a frisbee. It was weird how this scene was shot because you don't really see it, but you definitely see her go off horizontally. Um,
Yeah, and you see the over the top, the Hans Gruber falling down
yeah,
from the
yep,
top of the water tower.
yep.
Uh, and then the immediate shot right after it is the POV looking up from the
Yeah,
water tower,
looking
her
up,
descending.
and she's coming straight down,
The mother,
Spider-Man style, right?
the shot of the fucking mother hopping down after her baby
Yeah.
is so again, as far as unexpected scenes or situations, that was blew me out of the water.
Oh yeah.
Like to just like, a little punctuation mark on the fucking insanity of what happened, to
Oh
always
yeah,
keep you guessing, to give you something new and exciting that you hadn't seen, that you never would have expected seeing, but
yeah,
that you absolutely loved and wanted after it happened and want more of it. Uh, I love that. It was it was that for me is like that's the Malignant moments, like
right,
where it does things like that. The arm, the timing, like you said, and
yeah.
then seeing this jumping, he gets down to the pavement, and somehow the mother
got
cradled her to soften her
got
fall.
under her, soften her fall. So not only is
So
the
Tess is
mother
alive.
alive, but Tess is also alive.
Well, we
Um,
don't know the mother. The mother's presumably dead. We see
right,
brains splattered,
yeah,
and
or
he's talking
yeah.
to Tess, and he's explaining himself. He's
It's like
like,
it's like I'm sorry I
I,
had to, like
you
it was
get
you
it.
or me, and now
Yeah,
that we're
you get it, right?
but we're both fine now, so let me just take you to like get you to a hospital since you survived somehow, and the mother just hops up and she gets Justin Long's head, and this is the great double eye gouge moment.
and splitting his head right
And
in
then
half.
splitting his head in half. Yeah, the little Jeepers Creepers reference was nice.
And
Um,
so yeah, she connects with Tess, and she's like, this is like where it's like a little heartfelt, where she's like emotionally, like
she's
she's like,
yeah
mom,
yeah. This is the most human moment of the movie where the mother is cradling Tess and
yeah.
like almost like petting her, and the
And
only
she's doing
thing
the thing that the breastfeeding video does. You touch your mouth, you touch the baby's mouth. It's like to connect, to bond, to get the connection for the breastfeeding to happen successfully. She's doing that
right
with the baby, and that's what she can
right
emote. She can say babe baba or
yeah
baby. Uh,
yeah and the gun happens to be right there because Justin Long keeps dropping it, and she just pulls it up, and we hear the gunshot as it cuts to credits.
Yeah, ending with her walking away, with the water tower
Right.
in the background, and
Yeah.
be uh, be my baby, bye bye baby.
Yeah.
The song, perfect fucking closing song,
Yeah.
completely intentional, part of the script, wasn't
Yeah.
something they thought of afterward. It's like this is
This is the song.
the other exclamation mark on it.
Um, yeah. Movie was fantastic.
It's just there's so many moments that when it flips the script or it does something unexpected that uh it's new, it's exciting. It's not just your regular tried and true formulaic type thing. We just recently, what was last week? Was last week Orphan First Kill, or no, last
No,
week
last week
was
was
Fire She Will.
She
But
Will.
then it was the Orphan First Kill before that. Those all have there's unique moments, but it's you kind of know what's happening. It's a not formulaic in the sense that it's like you understand and it's just cookie cutter, but there's a certain rhythm and pacing to a lot of films
Right.
that everyone follows the same kind of pattern. And this doesn't. This breaks that mold and does something new and creative, changes the structure
Right.
each moment from these act progressions in a unique way that gives better context or engagement with it. There's other subtext that we had to get into. The whole idea of Detroit being this rundown, dilapidated piece of shit town now, or at least this area where
This
there's this
area,
one
this
thing.
suburb, yeah.
Yeah, uh, as far as the racial type undertones that are kind of there or prevalent as far as gentrification.
Yeah.
Uh,
The big subtext was like the male
yeah,
entitlement. The male entitlement breeds left unchecked, breeds violence and like it like rots away
yeah.
at things that otherwise would thrive. And you see that over and over and over through the eyes of Tess.
Y Yeah, and it's
Just
it's in Frank, as this, perpetrator of heinous, worst aspects of men and the degradation of women.
Yep,
You see it existing in AJ in a different form, but it's more subversive and,
yep,
in the background and sort of innocuous with the way that just penetrates all of these other things and is, you know, he's ambivalent towards
yeah.
them, or the objectification of them, and then
Yeah.
you see like
It's
that
e-
all
it's
of
e-
those structures existing with the way that she interacts with Keith.
well,
That all
it's
of that
even
is
in Keith.
there
Yeah,
and it's
and
loaded in how they
yeah,
interact.
it's even in Keith. Yeah, in his speech they have a so she approaches him already in the house. They have a conversation where he says, "What if you were here first? would you have let me in? She says, absolutely not. And then he says, yeah, but if you did, I would have walked in and been totally fine and comfortable,
Right.
whereas she was afraid all the way up until this
Right.
conversation. This conversation is where she finally loosens up and maybe kind of likes this guy Keith.
Yeah, well, and he does the whole duvet cover thing with the ghost and to
Right.
prevent the
Yeah.
wrinkles in
Yeah.
it. Like, there's this romantic comedy aspect of it that like it makes you wins you over a little bit. And there's a moment where they're looking at each other
Yeah.
like, are we gonna fuck? Like for a
Yeah.
half a second,
For
like there's
half a
like
second, and you're
no,
and
wait,
you're like,
this
oh
is
my
that's
god,
not real.
they can't because he's gonna have to kill her later.
So it's just but as a woman, you were always again can't speak from experience,
Right.
but like they're always weighing that and have to consider or themselves in this fragile positioning with a man in this situation. Like they are at between a rock and a hard place, and at any moment they for the most part wouldn't be able to defend themselves or do anything or stop him from doing something
I,
heinous.
I
Like and you put yourself in that situation, you want to trust, but like you can't just outright do it. And so like yeah, he
right.
feels comfortable because if she did it, like he would because he
He's
feels comfortable. Nothing
yeah.
would happen to him. He can do whatever he
Right.
wants. But
Right.
a woman can't walk through life like that. They're not able to or allowed to. They don't have
Right.
that privilege
Right. That,
that a man does.
exactly.
And so
I talked to Anastasia about this, of course, and her the exact thing she said was, yeah, like if I'm alone in a room with a man, I have to ask myself, what do I do if this guy gets aggressive, physically aggressive, sexually aggressive, doesn't matter. Um, even verbally aggressive. What if he just starts like yelling at me for some reason? Like
mhm,
she has to ask herself that question and think about and like look at the room. Are there weapons I can grab? Is there an easy exit? Like she has to have these conversations with herself all day long as a woman, a conversation I have never had with myself.
right. Sure.
Like how do people have to live like that is like I mean, it's the whole reason that we're all fighting for, for women to have rights and gays to have rights and trans people to have rights, and we want everybody to live as comfortably as a white man, right? Like
Sure.
that's what it's all
Yeah.
about is like trying to like because people who have lived in with fear for as long as they have, they're not going to get to live like that, but maybe their kids can, and maybe if not those kids, maybe the kids after it. Like we're obviously
Yeah.
fighting for future generations here, but like that's what the
It's
fight
an
is.
uphill
That's what the fight is all about.
battle, yeah.
Is having
It's
get is getting to
it is
live your life.
generational.
Yeah, getting to live your life without ever having that conversation with yourself. How do I
Yeah.
escape if this person attacks me?
Yeah. It's gonna take a few more generations, I think, for it to be just like 100%
Right.
not
Oh
questioned
yeah,
because like you just think of like of the people that are, anywhere from let's say in their 60s, 50s to 70s, whatever our parents' age. There's plenty of progressive and accepting people that are on the right side of things is where we're trying to go as a society, but there's still an immense amount that are completely not, that are fighting that tooth and nail. Uh, but the children are wiser for the most part, not
right.
all. Some of them have already been indoctrinated and everything, and but the more and more that there are of the good, then the more likely are that their children will be able to continue and progress, and there'll be less and less and less of the awfulness that is in society until it's at a much more minimal level where it isn't a minority opinion of those that
Yeah.
feel these awful things, where everyone will be in a much more
Right.
comfortable setting.
So as I said in the beginning in my short review, Barbarian gives you so much more than this like action thriller horror that is also very funny. Like I don't want to call it a horror comedy because when you do that, you kind of
Right? No,
put it in a horror comedy box, and
it's not. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a
it's not
horror.
it's
Comedic
a
elements are there to
yeah,
kind of relieve you, to then also get you weakened, so that then when they frighten you again,
yeah,
it's going to hit you harder.
right,
Yeah,
exactly.
bring your
Um,
guard back down. Yeah.
so you get all of that, but you also get this elevated level A24 esque subtext
Yeah.
So excellent job once again, Zach, in the writing of this film. It was um, it was definitely a fun ride, but also so much to talk about. So much to talk about.
Yeah, it's gonna hit both of those groups of people. It's gonna hit the people that want to, like, get into all the this handling a lot of the Me Too type stuff and men power dynamics maybe better or differently than Men by Alex Garland did.
Right,
Um, all of those conversations and those kind of cinephiles will be into having those talks and listening and thinking about that, ruminating on it. But then just the straight everyday Joe type viewer, Joe six pack, as it were, is gonna watch this and just have a sweet, fun ass time watching
right.
some crazy shit because it's still a well written, constructed, filmed fucking movie.
Yeah,
Man,
yeah. Just
so
just a great job. I gave it an
fun
8.
episode. Yeah, I also landed at an 8. It's definitely in top 5.
Yeah,
Looking at my
top 5
queue,
this year
and
somewhere.
it's up there.
All right, next week on the podcast for the recently deceased, it's got to be Pearl. We loved X so much. We it was our second episode of this season, I think, or maybe it was even last season.
That
Was it
was
last
last
season?
season because
Oh,
we double featured X
with,
with
with
porno.
porno. That's right. So yeah, so check out X. Check out our episode of X. Go see Pearl in the theaters this weekend, and then come watch us talk about Pearl next week, Tuesday at 8. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. And don't you say something?
Oh, well, I didn't say this anyway, but all right. Yeah.
How do you always close? You always close the same way.
Well, yeah. You usually close the same way, but it leads into me then saying, you usually say, "And we'll see you next
Oh,
time," and then I say, "Take care," and then you say,
and
"Well,
then
you
I
say
say,
something."
then I
You
say we'll
say
see
for
you
the
next time.
podcast, for you say for
Oh,
the
right,
podcast, for
right.
these movies.
For the podcast for the recently deceased, I'm Nate Roberts,
I'm Rodney Godek. Take care.
and we'll see you next time.